Hello, good morning and good evening to some of you, and welcome to a special Simon AI faculty panel discussion today. My name is Jamie Earl, and I'm the Executive Director of Advancement at Simon Business School. We'll be reaching out to attendees after the webinar to offer additional ways to stay engaged with the school, but please don't hesitate to reach out to our office. We'll tell you more ways to connect with students, help with recruiting, sponsoring a student project, going or hosting an event in your region, or connecting with the alumni community. We'd like to remind you that there will be a Q&A at the end of the session, so please drop a question into the Q&A box at any time throughout the panel. About the panel, titled From LLM to Agentic AI, Hype or Hope, this webinar aims to explore the rapidly evolving impact of artificial intelligence across business, policy, and society. I'd like to introduce today's moderator, Dan Keating. Dan is a clinical associate professor of information systems and AI and a 2005 MBA alumnus of Simon Business School. Dan teaches courses in AI, analytics, and product management across MBA, master's, and undergraduate programs. Since 2023, he has played a key role in Simon's AI initiative, helping integrate Gen AI into the curriculum and school operations. Dan has over 25 years of industry experience from global tech firms like Oracle and Click, having worked with clients such as Apple, SAP, and Dell and Merck. Thank you, Dan, for your time and expertise today, and I'll kick it over to you to introduce the rest of our expert panelists.
Very good. Thanks, Jamie. Our panel today will include insight from Mitch Lovett. Mitch is the Interim Dean of the Simon Business School and the Benjamin Forman Professor of Marketing. A faculty member since 2008, he is a leading scholar in marketing and earned his PhD from Duke University. Mitch has played a key role in launching Simon's AI initiative, developing innovative AI-focused graduate programs that prepare students for the data-driven economy. Thank you, Mitch. Our next panelist is Liza Mohr. She is a clinical associate professor at the Simon Business School, where she teaches programming, data management, business analytics, and AI application across MS, MBA, and undergraduate programs. She serves as the faculty director for the MS programs in business analytics, marketing analytics, and artificial intelligence in business. Prior to joining Simon, Liza led enterprise analytics and system strategy at Arubis in Buffalo, bringing a practical interdisciplinary approach to her teaching. So welcome, Liza. Oh, Liza, I think you're muted.
Oh, thank you. Yep, great to be here.
And finally, Huaxia Rui is a professor and the Xerox Chair of Computer and Information Systems at the Simon Business School, and a distinguished researcher and scholar at the University of Rochester's Center of Excellence in Data Science. His research focuses on social media analytics, big data, the economics of information systems, contract design, and health economics. Huaxia's work has been published in top academic journals, including Information Systems Research, the Journal of Financial Economics, Management Science, MIS Quarterly, and others. Thank you all for being here. So I will jump right in. A recent report from MIT got a lot of attention in saying that 95% of AI initiatives in the enterprise fail. A columnist for Fortune said that large language models seem simple. You can give them instructions in plain language after all, but it takes expertise and experimentation to embed them into business workflows. The real benefits of AI will come when companies abandon trying to get AI models to follow existing processes, many of which he argues reflects bureaucracy and office politics more than anything else, and simply let the models find their own way to produce the desired business outcomes. How do you think companies are using AI today, and why is it quote unquote failing? Is it quote unquote failing? Where do you think companies should go next? Mitch, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. And thanks for having me on the panel, Dan. I appreciate the chance to talk with everybody about this topic. You jumped right into the hyper hope question, I guess, at some level. I want to just say I think it's really easy to use the term failing and think that means it's all hype. put this in context, you teach about new product development. Most new products fail. I don't think we'd say new products are all hype, but some cases are going to fail. And I think that's the case here as well. I really like the quote that you gave. What I've been hearing from alumni is the real value is coming from re-engineering, rethinking what we're doing in our work, not just taking AI and plugging it into something that's an existing workflow, an existing way we're doing work. There are opportunities to do that, and there, kind of personal productivity opportunities and other ways of doing that. But we have to go well beyond that to generate the returns. And I think companies are in the process of making that shift. Instead of doing the low-hanging fruit or the first idea that seemed easy to try and explore, they're now investing in those deeper ways of engaging AI into their business processes. And that involves actually a lot of human involvement and effort and skills, not just AI skills. So I think this is an exciting area. And so I guess in my own leaning, I'm in the hope side more than the hype side with answering this question.
Great, thank you. Liza, would you like to add?
Sure, I agree with Mitch, and also I thank you, Dan, for having me. And I agree that failing has a pejorative connotation to it. We used to have an expression, "fail fast, fail cheap." And I think actually, AI type initiatives, generative AI, gives a lot of opportunities for trying things out, rapid prototyping, and finding the ones that work. So the failing isn't necessarily bad. It's the opportunity to develop a better path to a better solution that will work, like the product analogy, finding the one among all of the drafts. I think another commandment of many change engineering is know the use case. So making sure that what you're trying to do fits with the tool that you're using. And these are new areas, so I think there's still a lot of experimentation with what Gen AI does well, or what different parts of AI tools do well and what they don't, and some misunderstandings that could lead to things that don't do exactly or pay off exactly the way people initially think, but again, may lead to learning to the next better idea that ultimately does. So I'm in the hope category on this one too.
Very good. Huaxia, what do you think?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me on this panel. I agree with Mitch and Liza. I only have 2 points to add. One is this is not unique to AI. It could happen to any kind of disruptive technology, right? The second point is that AI is very unique. AI, as it is now, is very, very disruptive. We do have to keep in mind that when you bring a new AI initiative into your company, you have to think about the what people are thinking. So, of course, we can sell the initiative as this is going to increase our productivity. You will do some more interesting work, and all those routine kind of boring stuff would be delegated to AI. But behind the scene, we also have to think about this a natural consequence of replacement. So this is, I think, the kind of fear all of us have. Will AI replace me? I think this is real. So this is, I think, the biggest human factor that we have to think about when we implement AI initiative in our organizations.
Very good. I want to add a couple things to this. I want to key off something that each of you said. So, Huaxia, you talked about disruptive technology, and I was literally talking to Dan Burnside, another professor here at Simon, last week, and he said something really interesting around the idea of disruptive technology. And he said every single one of them, every single technology that has been introduced has had the exact same shape. And the first phase of it is we are able to use this new technology to do what we were already doing just a little bit better. And then that seems to be mostly where we are right now. We're able to, we're doing personal productivity gains. We're trying to re-engineer our existing processes using AI. But it's the next phase where things get really interesting. And that's where we can start to do things that we couldn't do before. The analogy that he used in a very simple way is if all of a sudden, if you never had a car and then all of a sudden you have a car. If you never had a car and you first get a car, you can now do the things that that you couldn't do, but you can things, but you can just do them a little better. You can go to the market quicker. You can go to your church. You can go to see friends. You can do all that quicker and better. But now that you have a car, now you can do some things that you just couldn't even dream of doing before. And that's where we are right now with AI. And so this shouldn't be a surprise that at the initial phase, there's a little bit of a productivity dip, but it is expected to accelerate. Liza, I also want to talk about what you said around fast failing. And the common idea that you hear in the workplace is, this meeting could have been an email. Like, why are we all getting together when you could have just sent me an email? The way to think of it in the AI world is this meeting could have been a prototype. So just put something in, and this is what we work on with the students all the time. Use AI to help you flesh out your ideas and in front of your team or your customer that they can react to and go from there. So it just if you utilize it in that way, it could really work well for you. Does anybody have anything to add on all this? We can move on.
I want to say something about the disruption part that Huaxia raised, because the AI is disruptive on so many different levels. It's disruptive internally to business processes, which kind of was a lot of the leaning in, but it's disruptive to everyday life for consumers, for students, for when you're shopping. Just there's so many ways in which it's affecting things that and it's almost immediate that those things can happen. I mean, I thought your survey you mentioned before we got on that, like, I think this is a really important fact that most people are going to be using this stuff all the time. It's not, like a thing you do as a specialist. It's something that's much broader than that. And the nature of disruption to businesses, there's disruption in the jobs and the work, but there's also disruption in the business itself. Search is a completely different business than it was 2 years ago. Search engine optimization, how you want to, structure your website. All these things are changing in ways that reflect the need to adapt to how consumers are using this too. So the disruption is very broad and very deep across the way we work and live.
Very good. Thank you, Mitch. As someone who teaches AI to graduate level business students, the questions I get the most are around replaceability of roles by AI. I think Huaxia referred to this, particularly in services, and what a person can do to avoid that. What makes somebody able to thrive in this new world? What are the skills that you would advise not just entry level and mid-career people, but also senior level? What should they accumulate to best prepare them for a world that will be increasingly reliant on AI? Mitch, do you want to take this one first? How would you prepare people?
Yeah, so I think there's kind of 3 broad categories of things you want to think about. But I also want to give a little background. I mean, what is it? I mean, the impact it's going to have on the workplace is profound, and that changes what skills you need to have. So there's one way to think about it, like, well, what do we need to prepare for this world with AI? But, well, what does that world with AI look like? And I think many entry-level jobs are just going to be very different than they used to be. I mean, we already see this dramatic impact on people who are programming, just the productivity gains and the efficiency and the number of programmers you need to do a project is just very different. But we're going to see it in other kinds of roles that, I mean, you've classified it as kind of service roles, but I would say information management roles broadly are going to have this kind of impact. I was talking to an alum who was talking about entry-level junior analyst roles that they have in their organization, and they're going to be really different, and they're going to need a far fewer of them to do the same work. And so there's more work to be done, and there's different work to be done, but that transformation of the work, that the models can do a lot of the brute force work that we used to have humans doing. And when the models are effective enough, you need a human overseeing those agents, those AI agents, but it's a different kind of work at that point. So then if you start thinking about that and what that means also at the middle manager roles, the information processing role is going to be different. It's more decision and judgment, influence, less about processing the information because that's something AI can really assist with. So that's changing the roles. So what do you need to succeed in this kind of environment? Well, you need to understand something about AI, of course, both for the personal productivity, but I was talking to one person, they were talking, well, we need people to be able to see, to have a clear view to how you can automate with AI, how you can redesign with AI. And so you need to have more than just a personal productivity, but thinking about these tools and where they can be effective, where the value can come from. So it's a little more technical understanding. You need to know enough about not necessarily being a great programmer yourself, but enough about that process and the linkages between pieces, the how data needs to be structured to leverage these kind of tools, how the processes can be redesigned to do this. So there's kind of a connection of technical to process there. But I think the third category that's really important is the human category. And Huaxia alluded to, like, you need to know how to manage all of the influence processes. You need to know how to manage the human emotion that's involved in all of this. And actually, how we're going to be managing will probably look quite different when you have somebody whose job is sort of managing some AI agents and connecting with other humans. That looks like a different kind of structure of the management process. So, thinking of leadership and ethical leadership as a central part of how people are going to have to really be trained and emphasizing on. It's not just the technical, it's this human side. And the last piece of that is transformational leadership. Many organizations they don't have the data structure. They don't have they're still, not that they're in the dark ages, but they're in the old 2010s in terms of their technology. And they're not quite ready to just adopt these kinds of things. And so it's going to take leaders who can really think through those transformational opportunities.
Very good. Thank you, Mitch. Liza.
Sure, I agree. I get this question. Thank you for the question because I get it a lot. Every year we just had orientation and I got this question in different forms or under the covers sometimes, the question from our students coming in. And I very sincerely can tell them, a lot of what Mitch said, which is, the skills that they'll need are the technical or the AI forward skills that we have, as well as, I still believe in my heart, the intellectual curiosity, enthusiasm, personal investment, management, self-management, teamwork, all those things that are valued is important. And also what people are looking for in interviews and how what companies are looking for, problem solving, and the ability to be part of a team and to inspire people. I also tell my new students that, and to Mitch's last point, there's the sort of rapidly changing world, but I think there's also, in some ways, businesses are big ships that steer slowly. And there's a period where our students, I think, or, new people working in this field will be the bridgers from the old to the new, which requires a skill of speaking both languages and seeing how we are going to transition from the existing processes into new ways of doing things. Now, we have the euphemism legacy systems, which is a nice way to say there's still a lot of data on mainframes out there, and that doesn't just go away. So I think that our students or anyone sort of asking this kind of question, especially in the early part of their career, is the skills are very much in demand, as well as the skills to be an ambassador and sort of help build the bridge to where the businesses are heading.
Very good. Thank you, Liza. Huaxia?
Well, AI is certainly becoming more and more powerful. There's no question about it. So if you can't beat it, you have to join it. What do I mean? I think the most important skill going forward is all about using AI. How do you collaborate with AI? I'm not talking about just using some web interface, use ChatGPT to do something. I'm more talking about the kind of orchestrator. How do you orchestrate different kind of AI agents to do things that you are currently doing and things that you haven't even started thinking about doing. A crucial point I want to make is that you have to truly understand the limitation and capability of AI. So I think this is why we still have to teach some fundamental stuff to students here, not because I want them to understand how the algorithm works, but to understand all the fundamental limitation of current AI. AI is powerful, but it's not almighty. There are some inherent limitation of current AI technology. If we have time later, I can talk about that too. But the key is you have to understand the limitation and the capabilities. So when everyone's hyping, you know there's some problem, and everyone's hoping, you know, okay, there's limitation that you have to understand. There's something that it carries inherent risk.
Dan,
Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to jump in on this a little bit because I think the legacy part is really important opportunity for students. Like if you're thinking about a career in this and the skills to leverage for a career, you also want to think about where you're going to land. Like there are organizations that are kind of, putting their toe in the water, so to speak. They're at the top, the people aren't very committed to this. At Simon, like we committed early to going after AI, and I think that's been important for how we've been able to embrace and move the school forward. But there are organizations out there that are just, they're just putting their toe in. And for somebody who has the skills to, think about the transformation, the value add, getting in a company where there's a senior leader that is directing this transformation and really investing in AI, like that's a moment where you can catch this wave, find a company with great product and that's moving in this direction. And it's a real opportunity to transform things. Companies need these skills. And we were talking earlier about the failures. Problem is, it's a failure of the human side as much as the technology side. And so we need to train students to do this and then get them in the company so that we can transform business and change the world.
Absolutely. And I want to key off a couple things you said there, Dean Lovett. The world still needs people to be experts, and they need them to be good at what they do. And once they're good at what they do, and then they add the AI skills, they're unstoppable. But they need that human expertise. AI is going to give you a B+, A- answer. Your own expertise is going to take it into A level. There was something else that you said that I don't want to gloss over because it's so important, and it's the underlying data structure of the whole thing. I come from the analytics world. I come from big enterprise-wide analytics initiatives and been working on it for 20 years of like, how do we take all these disparate data systems and put business intelligence on top of it. Now we're going to put AI on top of it. And it comes down to the fundamental basics of business, which is making sure the data is good so that you can get actionable insights from it and that kind of thing. So I really did not want to skip over the data side of this. I want to talk about, I'm going to skip because I wanted to open it up for questions pretty soon. There was a really important idea, and it had to do with veracity and truth and hallucination, because that is one of the big knocks on AI, this idea of hallucination. And it comes from a conversation that Liza and I were having literally last week. Professor Mohr brought this up with me. We teach a course together on AI and business in all of the master's program, and I think it's worth discussing here. Liza made a connection between hallucination and regression analysis, and it made me think. I'm paraphrasing here, but you said that when we predict things using regression, one of the cornerstones of analytics, that prediction is just a guess, and it has a confidence interval. And that guess sometimes falls outside of the confidence interval. Sometimes it's an outlier. Most of the time it's going to be in the range. And we don't get too bent out of shape about that. We generally accept those more extreme predictions as part of doing business. If our methods are sound and the data is good, we often get the predictions right, but not always. The connection that you made to AI hallucinating was this. isn't AI just a prediction? And most of the time it's within the confidence interval, but sometimes it isn't. And that's when it hallucinates. We seem to accept imperfection in numbers, but not in words. So I'll start with you, Professor Mohr, as it was your idea, but I'd like to chat with all of you about that. Liza, did I get the idea right? What do you want to add to that?
Sure. Well, I don't know that I said isn't AI just a prediction. It was a great conversation we were having, so I appreciate the chance to continue it. I do think it's interesting. And I was talking to my students last night. I jumped on to teach. I teach in our online program, and I jumped on at 7, and there's a big thunderstorm going over my house right at that moment. And I looked at my AccuWeather app, and it said, rain stopping in 18 minutes. And I thought, oh, that 18 minutes is the output of a model. It's a prediction. If the rain doesn't stop for 25, I don't think that it hallucinated. I recognize there's variation there, variance. And what I think is interesting about some of the things we were talking about hallucination, Dan's example was, we're trying to avoid the capital of New York is Syracuse. And, because we ask a factual question that we're getting a deterministic answer, because the capital of New York is Albany. And when we use a tool like generative AI, I think there's two things. One is I think there's sort of a fundamental misunderstanding about Gen AI tools, that they're retrieving information. And some of them can, obviously, because they can search the web. I mean, there's tools there, but the language model is not retrieving information. The language model, is giving a statistically probable output from patterns that were encoded in its training. And that's tough. I mean, I have those conversations, because I'm fun at parties. I think that's interesting to think about and talk about. And that often kind of really people go, oh, so there's kind of this, we're still working with really trying to understand. And it kind of goes back to use case. I don't tend to ask generative AI, what's the capital of New York? I mean, databases are really good at retrieving information like that. The other thing is, I think there's something really interesting. There's a psychological, area around how we interact with something that uses language and sort of talks versus something numerical. Understanding, like you mentioned, standard error, confidence intervals, prediction intervals in a more quantitative sense, like the rain stopping in 18 minutes, or we're going to get 8 inches of snow in Rochester, versus something that's talking. I think it's just interesting from a human perspective.
Very good. I'm going to move a little quickly here. I've got one direct question for Huaxia and one direct question for Mitch, and then we'll open it up for questions. So, Professor Rui, you teach machine learning and deep learning, and have been for many years, well before the generative AI explosion around post-ChatGPT in late 22. How has the interest in generative AI and its widespread adoption changed how we work with machine learning and deep learning, or has it?
Well, the short answer is yes, but not completely. Of course, if you think about, in fact, the emergence of a large language model has triggered a paradigm shift in how we do machine learning, especially when it comes to unstructured data, like text data, like image, audio, or video. The fundamental reason, I think, if you think about it, is now we are treating a very good large language model as if it's a form of intelligence. So if you want to understand the sentiment of a sentence, if you understand what is in this image, you can ask a human. But now, if you have another form of intelligence, which is much cheaper, then you can just ask that intelligence. So this is a very crude analogy, but the point is that this emergence of large language model has definitely triggered a paradigm shift in how we do machine learning. Now, if I may, I want to quickly add a comment on Liza's interesting point about the previous question. So if you think about what we get out of the regression or typical model, you get an estimate, you got a confidence interval, you have 2 pieces. But when it comes to hallucination, you only get 1 piece. You talk to ChatGPT, you get one answer. And you don't get many answers. You just get one estimate. The confidence that you feel in the text is part of this estimate. So I think that is the fundamental difference between the error that we see, error and confidence when we do regression versus the hallucination problem in large language model. They're not exactly, well, fundamentally they're the same, but because when it comes to large language model, you get only the estimate. You don't get the confidence. The confidence is embedded in that estimate itself. Just to add to that.
And I think that's really interesting because so if it came out with the capital of New York is Syracuse, right? That's to your point, like that's all we see, and it's wrong. But it was drawing from a collection of possible, one of which was Albany, right? But I think that's a great point. We don't see that, so we don't have that way to put the band around it.
And AI, they are often very confident. They sound confident. That's part of their estimate. I think that's a problem.
Absolutely. So are we just going to have to adjust our own confidence in it? I don't know. But you're right. It's something about the fact that it's words and not numbers. This is an unsolvable question right now. Liza, did you want to jump in?
Well, can I just one more sentence, which is so I mean, in some ways it's a feature, not a bug. Creativity and generativity is what they're born to do. So the fact that, if we ask it to write a limerick or a poem or come up with, write my bio, right? The fact that it's using different words, not giving the exact same words all the time is actually one of the really amazing features of it. So we value creativity when we want creativity, and when we want the deterministic answer, we call it a hallucination.
Exactly. I think that's exactly why you have to understand the limitation and the capability of this technology. You have to always have these two sides at the same time in your mind when you use this technology.
Very good. Dean Lovett, I have a Simon related question for you. So Simon was aggressive in embracing AI across the curriculum, encouraging students to use it, developing new courses, new degrees. We created an RAG system for a course bot for use in courses that retrieves material very specific to that courses. We trained the faculty, the students, the staff. We've done a lot of outreach with alums to help them get more conversant in this. Why did Simon get on board so quickly with AI, and what's next for the school when it comes to AI?
Yeah. So the why is very simple. This builds on, leading in AI builds on the strength that Simon has had for a long time in analytics. We were first to STEM, MBA. This is what Simon does. We are a quantitative framework, analytics, economics-based school, and that strength lends itself directly to thinking about leading in AI as well. So I think it's just a natural next step in that sense. But also, it was really clear to me and others, folks like those in this panel early on, that AI was a game changer for what we're doing at the business school, and a game changer for how we are, going to proceed. Did I block? Oh, okay. So, sorry, it looked like my video froze for a minute. So I think this is a really big deal for Simon. We recognized it early, and we recognized we needed to invest broadly. That some schools actually, they kind of focused, a couple people developed some courses, and that was their solution to AI. And we took a very different tack, as you mentioned, trying to bring the whole community into this transformation. So where are we going with this? Well, we're going to continue pushing further with this. We've launched programs. We're going to continue to revitalize our courses. AI is changing so fast right now. I can only imagine the course that you and Liza have taught, and that Liza and Huaxia. I'm imagining every time you're having to almost reinvent the whole course around all the changes that are happening, right? So we're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to do that in the core modules that every program has. We think it's so important for every student to get this. So we'll continue to do that revitalization and just staying on the cutting edge. but we're also extending this in various ways. So I think the deepening in every discipline, the way that we integrate it, thinking even more about what we need as students to be able to do as we learn more, and making sure we're staying in touch with leaders in the field, the people who are evaluating. Talking last week with somebody who's over billions and billions of dollars of investment into companies that are doing AI projects. Like, they're the ones doing the loans. They do due diligence. Listening and hearing from alumni who have that kind of connection. What are the challenges? What is it we need, our students to be able to do? Like, plugging that information into how we're transforming our curriculum. We're going to be doing that, in the future. I just want to mention one particular one, our DBA program, our Doctor of Business Administration program. This is an area that I'm really excited about. Huaxia is actually teaching an AI course in that program. But this is a place where we're going to be bringing in senior leaders. They're going to, people who could be doing these transformative AI projects for companies, leading them at that level. This is a real opportunity with a new platform of education to really leverage Simon's strength in this place. I'm excited about where that's going. All of our programs, all the work we're doing with our alumni. I think it's just going to be a great future for Simon in this space.
Thank you, Mitch. To go a little further on that, we've also done a bunch of executive education initiatives around AI. We've designed courses and are continuing to design new courses that are aimed at people who have graduated, that are just a kind of a brush up on new technologies and those kinds of things. And yeah, I just finished teaching 2 of them in August. One just for the medical center, and then one to a broader audience on applying AI in their day-to-day jobs. And I had beginners in there and I had experts in there, and the goal was to get them all using AI better and all thinking about it, and how are the risks in the organization different for these kinds of initiatives? What can you do from a personal productivity standpoint? What can you do from an initiative, from an enterprise-wide initiative standpoint? How do you work these projects through, given that they are that just aren't that many people who have done them before? They've got a different set of risks. They've got a different set of KPIs. How do you evaluate it? How do you change incentives so that, look, you go to a salesperson and you say, I want you to use this new method. And they say, don't mess with my commission, please. I know how to make money. And so you have to juggle all of that and make it all work. It kind of goes back to the first topic of why are these things failing and that sort of thing. But I've gotten off topic. But the general point is that we're also doing a bunch of adult education, executive education. I don't know exactly what it's called.
That's a great point. And Dan, I want to emphasize one of the things that Simon, I think, is really leaning into is thinking about being a partner to not just our alumni, but a broader set of working professionals with executive education and short form courses and things like this panel, all the way to degree programs, certificate programs, and like the DBA that I mentioned earlier. Everyone's going to have to upskill to address the challenges that AI is bringing and the opportunities it's bringing. And to do that, we want to be a partner with our community on this. And I think we have a real opportunity to work together to go further than we would go independently. So this is an exciting area, I think, for Simon.
Very good. So I'm going to turn to a few questions that came in on the Q&A. Okay, this one is from Brett Whitney. People since the Industrial Revolution have specialized in specific tasks. Will we see LLMs specialize in fields of study due to the different areas of content or approach to content within the specialization? For example, finance, health, or even public safety as a knowledge domain. So does some... Go ahead.
Sure. Do you want to speak to that? You want?
No, go ahead, please.
So I guess I was just gonna say, I think we do already. You can fine tuning a large language model for a specialized, task or based on a specific pattern of interaction or knowledge base or tone, even, if we want a large language model that can fill out charts like a doctor would fill them out. I mean, so yes, I think is my short answer is that that's being done. I don't know if Huaxia has more that he wants to say about it.
No, I agree. I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go
ahead, Mitch.
I wanted to add a little bit more and say, like, it's being done, and it's really important to leveraging these tools. Like, if you just take the generic version, it's not going to do that well on many tasks. Like, it will do really well for certain kinds of tasks. But an example of this, I was talking to an alum in the finance area, and they were trying to use LLMs for some sort of specific finance tasks, and it just didn't do that well. So they had to train their own, and they do amazingly well, right? But you have to adapt to the setting and know how, as Huaxia was talking earlier, what are the limitations? What are the things that are going to limit what it's able to do? How do you make sure that you're leveraging the architectures to really deliver for a specific problem?
Very good. Thank you. So here is a question about quantum computing. I'm guessing this is for Huaxia. But anyone can feel free to jump in on this. It seems to me that our ability to unlock and scale AI in society will be dependent upon the computing power available. Would you agree that as quantum computing evolves, going from a sequential 16-bit processor to something that works at 2 to the power of 16, the true power of AI will emerge? And how far are we from that happening?
That's a pretty big question. And to clarify, I'm not an expert on quantum computing, but let me just answer in this way. I don't think, well, for sure, computing power is a crucial element to the power of AI, but it's one of the three main factors. You also need a lot of data, and you need a very good architecture, good algorithm. So just the pushing the limit of computing power will reach some plateau. At some point, you will see decreasing return. In fact, I think right now the biggest problem of that limits the power of AI is the lack of common sense. So this has something fundamentally related to the basis of AI, this what I call statistical AI, is fundamentally an induction method. I often use the story of Russell's turkey to illustrate the idea to students. For those of you who are not familiar with the story, let me just quickly talk about this. Basically, you have a turkey which gets some lunch at noon every day. So the turkey is a good data scientist. You can also call the turkey AI expert, whatever you like. But basically, the turkey observed, like, maybe on one day it gets lunch at 11:55, the next day 12:05, roughly around noon. After a long time, the turkey develops a very good model and predicts that every day you get a free lunch at around noon, with some confidence interval, until on the day before Thanksgiving. Okay, there's no lunch. It becomes lunch. So what went wrong? There's nothing wrong with the prediction. The prediction is almost perfect. There's nothing wrong there. The problem is that there's no free lunch. That's one way to think about it. But the deeper reason is that the AI right now is a technology based on induction, based on experience, based on learning from the data from the past. It does not have a causal mind to think about questions like, is there free lunch? So I think this is, by the way, this is different from hallucination. This is a much bigger, more serious problem than hallucination. I'm sure at some point we will address the issue of hallucination, but this is a fundamental limitation that I often want students to keep in mind.
Very good. Thank you. I have a question about small business. This is an important one. For those of us in small, it comes from Patrick Tobin. From those of us in small business, there are certainly many positives, but also some concerns: IP, protection of personal information, corporate financials, et cetera. How do you start leveraging AI without significant exposure? I'll take this one first. And there's a couple things you can do. First of all, just make sure you have a private account, obviously. So a paid account will hopefully we trust them to do what they say, which is that they're not ingesting the data for future training. That's an easy thing that you can do. But the other thing is, just start. What we teach students to do is take their workflows and break it down into steps and just start asking AI where it thinks it can help you in various steps and testing those things out. You can build little agents that do just little pieces of it. We tend to think of needing to harness the full capabilities of this to automate an entire system. That's not the first step. The first step is just look at your workflows and see what can I offload to AI? Where do I need to check it? What are the risks if it produces the wrong answer? How do I need to give it a certain amount of agency, but that I still have control in it? And it really is sort of a workflow by workflow process of re-engineering how you do your day, your month, your quarter, your year. So it's breaking it into little pieces and just messing around with. I don't want to make that sound casual because it's very serious, but trying it out in AI and seeing what AI does well and what it doesn't do well right now, and then maybe trying it again in a few months and seeing where the frontier has moved to. Would anybody else like to talk about those who are starting new small businesses, want to really make sure they limit their risk and exposure?
I can give some comments. So I think the two concerns, one is privacy and data. The other one is the escalating cost of calling those API. One simple solution that you can start with something small, some locally hosted LLM. And we do this all the time. Like here at Simon, when I teach students, I have a course bot, a chat bot based on some open source large language model right next to my door, right next to my office. So we use that locally hosted a large language model to do all kinds of fun stuff, including the chatbot for my own course. So students learn that in our course. So there's no cost, obviously, because well, there is cost. The cost is you have to buy some GPU, but the cost is pretty much like a fixed cost.
Yeah, and I would just add, you want to be really sensitive to the industry you're in and what kind of legal obligations you have. So thinking about the risk, I mean, there's certainly like you got to be very careful. Healthcare data, obviously, in using these kinds of tools. So there are settings where even if you're small, you still have to be pretty thoughtful and careful about making sure you're using it appropriately and following standards. So being aware of that. So there's a little bit of checking you have to do for that kind of stuff. The privacy information, I think, is also important to think about. And Dan's point about making sure you have a kind of a subscription, just know what you're getting into on that before you just leap for if you're using off the shelf approaches. Huaxia's suggestion of building your own. I mean, you got to have some technical talent inside to do that, but it's less than you might think is needed, right? This isn't. This is a funny thing to say, but this isn't rocket science. Though I guess these things maybe will be powering rockets at some point. So.
No, not at all. In fact, I think as our student here, it takes them 7 weeks to learn the skill.
Yeah.
Liza, you in your courses, you show how to use put an LLM on top of private data sets and call APIs, the things that businesses really want to do. What are some of the key lessons that students take away immediately, and how quickly can you get them up to speed and doing useful things with an LLM on top of private data sets?
I think, I mean, remarkably quickly. This is our first year where we have our capstone for our MSAIB. They're just getting started this week, actually. And already the students in this program have shown me stuff that they did over the summer that it goes beyond what I might have said a year ago was the kind of thing we would be doing. And so, yeah, I think to Wash's point, I agree with Wash. The students learn it quickly, and the tools lend themselves well to um, prototyping and putting things together, and more low code or no code solutions to getting things up and running, including, like you mentioned, um, RAG and private knowledge bases and the kind of things that we want. In addition to just the language model, we want all these other things. We also want it to be able to interact with our calendar, or Evernote was a question I got last night. Are we going to cover how to have, the time, write an application that can get data to and from Evernote? Sure, sure. Um, so yeah, I think that it's a fun area to be teaching because it is something we can see results within the course of our 7-week mini semester.
Very good. Thank you. So I'm going to do a lightning round. I'm going to do very quick questions and ask for quick answers from all of you. So what is your favorite personal use of AI? Who wants to go first?
I use it all the time for benchmarking. It's great at looking up stuff on websites, putting it all into a table for me. It saves so much time. Hours and hours of work and done in a few minutes.
And you're able to check it pretty easily that it's right and that sort of thing.
Ask it to give you the sources, and it'll put right, column of the source.
Very good.
This isn't maybe revolutionary, but it's something I used to just really dread. I use it to write different versions of things, so scenarios, case scenarios, or even just exam question scenarios. I used to kind of dread if I'd use something too long. Now I've got to write a new one and knock out 5 or 6 variations on a theme. Is my heart sings with joy that.
Very good.
My
Go ahead, Huaxia.
my favorite personal use of AI is to build bots that can replace me in a sense. I build bot that can interact with students so I can save time answering email. I built a research bot that can tell people what I'm doing instead of me responding to email and so on. So this is, this gives me a lot of free time afterwards.
Very good. I use it for, it's really good to help me with grading on long essays. So, but there's a really important lesson in it, and it is that it's my name on the work. And so I've got to check it deeply, that it is saying what I want it to say. And I have a lot of students, and it gives a depth of grading that I couldn't do as an individual. And it has really sped that up, but it's not just sped it up, it's giving the students better feedback. And ultimately it is it's my name on the work. So I check it deeply. Okay. What scares you about AI? All right, I'll go first. What scares me about AI is that, and I make this speech every single time in every single class I teach, just because I'm telling you all the good things you can do with it does not mean I fully endorse everything that you could ever do with this thing. I have concerns with it. And, just one of the concerns is a very human one. And it is, we as a species tend to exploit the things that we create, whether that's medicine or art or natural resources or whatever it is. Greed gets involved, and things can go off the rails. We've just seen this recently in social media that what starts as a pretty good idea can devolve into something else or change into something else. And so I have those human concerns about that kind of thing. I don't want to scare you. Believe me, I'm going to end on an optimistic note. But what are some of the things that scare you about AI?
For me, I think it's more having more difficulty discerning between what is authentic and what is not authentic, and even the meaning of authentic will likely change in the digital world as we go. And so this sort of blurring of reality, it's interesting, but it's also a little bit scary. And I mean, it's also, I think, likely to move us to be doing more real in-person stuff. to have that authentic experience and to have that assurance about the authenticity of the experience we're having.
I think mine would be similar. The difficulty to discern and the sort of new literacy skills needed to discern, but then also trust both ways. I mean, I see things where something is AI, where there's clearly a lot of people reacting to it that don't realize that it's not real. And then the flip side, which is something that is real, and the comments are full of people saying that's AI and it's not. So it's we're trusting things maybe that aren't trustworthy, and then we're not trusting things that are authentic. So it's definitely it can be a skewed lens.
I have a short-term fear and long-term fear. I'm not going to talk about the long-term fear because that's a long story. The short-term fear is job. I think, especially for the next generation, for young people, for my kids, I'm very worried that they will be squeezed into a few remaining islands where they can find jobs, so to speak. AI is becoming more and more powerful, as I emphasized, but the downside is that what do we humans do after they take over more and more jobs? So that's the biggest short-term concern I have.
Very good. Now, what gives you hope about AI?
I think it's going to just allow people to have more meaningful work and more meaningful lives in the long run. I think that it has the opportunity to really create a lot of value for a whole range of applications so that we're spending less time kind of doing stuff that we've been designed at this point to do. Like, how many hours do we spend searching Google for things, shopping for the right thing, and why do we have to do that to get to that thing that actually matches what our needs are? And AI, I think, has huge potential to focus us in on actually more human connection and more meaningful lives.
I think it has some great possibilities, although I share your concerns, Dan, with that relies on ethics and humanity, but great possibility for accessibility, accommodations, inclusivity, and really expanding across time, place, giving access to a lot of people and places. I look forward to, being part of that, on a business angle, but also social justice and just a human level.
AI is powerful, it's useful. So I think my biggest hope is that we can use this tool wisely to benefit as many people as possible.
Yeah, that's well said. My hope is around some of those same things that you just said. There's a need for humanity and for our own personal connection and our own creativity. And in theory, AI should free us up, and that's what makes us human, and that's what gives us value, is that kind of stuff, the more intangible human creative side. And I really hope that it enables some of that. And I also hope for medical breakthroughs. Medical science problems, environmental problems that can be addressed. And that gets us right back to the beginning of the conversation around what are the new things that we can do with this thing that we couldn't do before. And that makes me very optimistic about solving real world problems. So thank you very much for being here. I want to thank you again, Dean Lovett. I want to thank you, Professor Mohr and Professor Rui, for an incredible presentation and conversation. Many thanks to our students, alumni, and faculty, and just stakeholders in the Simon School for joining us. Please stay connected, as Jamie said. We appreciate your time. We look forward to seeing you in future Simon webinars, and we're here to help. So please reach out. Love talk. I can speak for the 4 people on this call. We love talking about AI, so please reach out. Does anybody have any final words?
Dan, can you got a question, PSA for links to short form classes you and others teach to the local community. Will we be able to send those out to people afterwards? Maybe just say a word.
Absolutely. So we will make sure to send to this audience we're going to follow up via email. In fact, we just talked about running another one in November, 3-week course on generative AI. But and there are others in the pipeline that are being created as we speak.
That's great. Well, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you to Jamie and Advancement for putting this together.